Welcome back to Delayed Response. I went down the rabbit hole and I found some of the wildest conspiracy TikToks that I know you're going to enjoy. Now, if you like going down rabbit holes just as much as I do, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button because we drop videos every single day. And you might want to stay to the end because there's some videos I don't think most people have seen. So without further ado, let's just get straight into it.
Have you seen the recent photo from NASA going viral? To me, that looks like a firmament. But you know, this could be fake. Let me show you something real. Last time I checked, guys, clouds weren't 93 million miles away. But apparently the sun is, and the sun can be within the clouds. Check out it in the infrared. Look, it's literally within the clouds. Strange.
Film.
Hey, look at there!
Only prove beyond all reasonable doubt.
Did you see
None
that?
of the official NASA images of lunar exploration are fake.
They chucked that thing out of a plane, dude, and said it came back from outer space. Look.
In this film, we shall not only prove beyond all reasonable doubt that many of
They're
the
fucking
official NASA
busted.
images of lunar exploration are fake, but we shall
This is extremely creepy if you've never seen it before, and frankly, even if you have. In a moment, this is going to start cycling through a bunch of unaltered celebrity photos, but you're going to keep your eyes focused right here in the very middle on this cross. Again, this only works if you keep your eyes focused on the middle at the cross. And what will happen is you will start to see strange distortions on these faces in your peripheral vision. They will start to look monstrous, or they will look like cartoonish caricatures with features that are exaggerated, with big eyes or big jaws or big mouths. Some of you think this is a trick and that these images are distorted, but if you go back and watch it again, you will see they are only distorted in your peripheral vision. If you stop and look at the individual images, they're normal. That is called the flashed face distortion effect, and we actually don't know how it works. The video was made by Tangent Cognitive Labs and it went viral a long time ago. Like, obviously it has something to do with the fact that your peripheral vision is imperfect and your brain is trying to fill in details. And they've done follow-up experiments showing that it doesn't just work with faces. But as for why the brain processes these faces as cartoonish and distorted versus just making them blurry, to this day nobody's really sure.
Did you know that this man battled aliens and lived to tell the tale? That's Phil Schneider, who claimed to be an ex-government worker with top security clearance who worked on building deep underground military bases. There was apparently a dark secret behind these bases, and in 1995, Schneider began to give lectures and blow the lid on the clandestine presence of aliens on Earth who had a network of underground bases themselves. He asserted that the government knew this and had been working with them for decades in a kind of technology exchange. In the late 70s, he said he was working on building a secret base under the Archuleta Mesa in Dulce, New Mexico, when an altercation happened after he and his crew accidentally tunneled into an alien base. This encounter turned violent, leading to massive loss of life on both sides, as well as leaving Schneider severely wounded. A year after going public with his stories, Schneider unalived himself, though some suspected there was foul play involved as an attempt to silence him. Now, there's a lot more to this story, but what do you think? Let me know in the comments.
But I think that whether it's a pole shift, magnetic pole shift is one of the, theories of what causes these events. But there is a history of near extinction events. And one of the things that I've looked at, because I'm trying to figure out, between fiscal 1998 and fiscal 2015, there were 21 trillion of undocumentable adjustments in the U.S. government. If you go to our website, missingmoney.solera.com, we have years and years of documentation, including the government financials that show this. And so the question is, where's all this money going? And one of the things I've looked at in the process of looking at where all this money is going is the underground base and city infrastructure and transportation system that's been built. And
I'm sorry?
yes. So we have built an extraordinary number of underground bases and supposedly transportation systems. Some of these are some of these are documented as part of the national security infrastructure. I think there are many more. So,
In the United States?
in the United States, on all over the world, but from 2021 to 2023, I took one of the smartest subscribers in the Solari Report network, and he and I spent 2 years collecting all the data and all the allegations on underground bases, and then we systematically went through and tried to estimate our guess. This is totally a guess of how many underground bases, both underground in the United States, but also underground under the ocean around the United States. And our estimate was 170 with a transportation network connecting them.
And what would be the purpose?
The purpose, if you thought you were going to get a near extinction event, so there, to me, there are two purposes. You have so many activities going on that you need to keep secret that you're basically building the capacity to, for example, if you're doing a secret space program, you need to platform it from, things that can't be seen. But I think if you're worried about a near extinction event, that's.
So I know nothing about this other than my only window into it. I knew a contractor who worked on one in Washington, in the city of Washington, D.C.
Right.
And I remember him telling me about a power box, like a transformer box on Constitution Avenue that he told me, because he worked on it personally, was actually the exit, the egress from the White House. That was kind of by vehicle. I thought that was, I was like, really? He goes, oh, yeah, no, I installed it. I know. And I thought, well, that's kind of crazy that in the middle of this big city where I live, I was on Constitution Avenue every day, that you could build something like that without me knowing it. Under the VP's house at the Naval Observatory, same thing. I think most people know that. Next to my brother's house on Macomb Street in D.C. But that's, I always thought that was like preparation for nuclear war. Like, I didn't really think about it that much.
Some of it is, it's preparation for catastrophe.
So, but you think that there are facilities like that in other places outside D.C.?
Oh, yeah. So if you're interested, we have a great interview. I did an interview of Richard Dolan on underground bases on the Solari Report, and it's sort of an introduction to the topic, and it's based on a lot of the research of a guy named Richard Sauter, who is very hard to interview. So Richard kind of went through all the material. And clearly it's, I don't know if you ever saw, Washington Post did a project, it was in 2010 or 12, called Top Secret America. And one of the reporters, it was a team of 2 reporters, one of them put together a database of all the different top secret installations that had been built in the country, including since the Patriot Act. And what you saw was just this explosion of money in building so many both underground and above ground facilities.
cabins down there and affixing them together with robots and things and creating this giant facility. They're also tunneling to make one of the real bases that are not compartmentalized and modular. They actually drill from stateside to underneath the ground into a part of the ocean, and they come up from within. And they have special devices that create these electromagnetic fields, very, very powerful, of course, when you're 10,000 feet below the surface, that they come up from the ground and it forms this special like bubble, like a sphere, and clears out everything. All the water gets pushed back. And once they create this bubble, they have some way of putting up this transparent metal. It's about 6 feet thick, and it's transparent. You can see right out of it. And once that's in place, that structure, then they start just building from within, And these things are, could be anywhere from, 5 to 20 acres in diameter.
Now, in the ancient times, what came first, the base or the water?
The base was there first.
And then it got covered.
And then it got covered with water. And in the Marianas Trench, there's a large portal there that they've been following for quite some time and evaluating and taking tests on this, where these craft are coming in and out of this portal. They're not engaging them. They're not trying to do anything. They're just kind of watching what is going on here. And it's near this other ancient structure that's down there. So they put a base there that's very close by to monitor, this portal, and also build out a base down there where they can spend a lot more time analyzing the portal, analyzing this archaeological find.
Are these bases there primarily, Emery, to monitor ET movement or something else?
Well, the primary reason was to monitor the portals where the extraterrestrials were coming in and out of. Then they found artifacts, near these areas of the planet where the portals are, and they're knowing this is like the chain of what's been going on. Find a portal, oh, it's near a new archaeological site. Let's build a base nearby and monitor this.
Aha. Why underwater?
Well, number one, they have to have 24-hour surveillance on this area. They're taking readings constantly, fluctuations in the electromagnetic fields. They're trying to replicate this. They want to learn, where is these things going? And why is it, here it is in the water. Does it also come out in the water somewhere else, if you go back in? I think they're probably, getting teams together to try this out. They have already sent like drones in and other things, but it doesn't work.
Under the Earth, there are 7 more planets that are disks.
What?
Yeah.
7 flat worlds?
Pretty much. I'm the only one who can show you from astrology, from the Bible, and from the East, and from all traditions, how they all syncretize and concur that the Earth is a stationary horizontal plane.
I love
You have to do it like that. If you don't do it like that, you can't do it properly. You can't just have one angle. You can't just say, oh, all the scientific experiments that have been conducted prove, George Airy, James Bradley, Sagnac, Michelson Morley, they all prove that the Earth is stationary, and that's your one angle. You can't just have one angle. I'm coming from the Jewish tradition. I'm coming from the Bhagavad Gita. I'm showing how the Bible proves it with great etymological proofs, and no one else is doing that. I do that and all the other angles.
Is this a dimension? Are we living in an energy force that has multiple layers?
You know the Kabbalistic tree, right? There it is there, the 10 Sephiroth, your 10 fingers. There's Kether, and there's Malkuth, the earth. So is it a dimension? Yes, it is. But it's all these things, from Kether to earth, which is ether to earther, same word. So if you're asking, what's the earth? Well, it's just ether in a gross, more solidified form.
I'm not allowed to say certain things, but this is how they hide everything. So, if you want to understand what you are, where we are, this ebook will literally unveil that to you.
While millions of people struggle to pay their bills, there are free ways of generating electricity. Take a look at this rare electricity generating stone that was found in Africa.
Who shot the footage? He's walking out on the moon. One giant leap for mankind.
He had a TV camera.
Where?
It was in the, as he walked down the LAM, he pulled a handle that deployed what was called a MESA, the Modular Equipment Assembly, Modular Equipment Storage Area, whatever it was. And in that was a camera. And so when that came down, they flipped it on, and the camera was pointed right at the landing. And so as he came down the ladder, this camera was taking his picture. It's a TV camera. It's grainy, but it was in that assembly. Right. And then once we got off, they took the camera and put it on a little tripod, if I remember. But
I remember very clearly, I think anybody who was alive at the time does, I remember my parents waking me up and we went down and we watched you guys land on the moon.
No, you didn't.
What?
Because there wasn't any television. There wasn't anybody taking a picture. You watched animation. So you associated what you saw with...
I have very hazy memories.
I know.
Well, no, but what we saw was we all were gathered around the old curved top radio and listened.
Talking about, how many feet we were going to the left and right, and then I said, contact light, engine stop, and a few other things, and then Neil said, Houston, Tranquility Base, the Eagle has landed. Man, how about that?
That was very exciting.
Not a bad line.
And I'll tell you something else Hal told me. Serious as all get out. Because Hal mapped the moon. He wrote many books on the moon.
Okay.
So he mapped the moon. He studied the moon more than anybody in the world. He's the expert on the moon. So we were talking one night, out watching the stars, and I'm like, Hal, I said, is there really something on the backside of the moon? He looked at me and he said, there are buildings up there, big ones, and we didn't build them. And they're ancient. So help me, that's what he told me. And I didn't ask any more questions, but he wouldn't answer.
Didn't he say the buildings look like mushrooms?
Some of them.
I thought that was really weird.
Some very
ancient buildings that look like mushrooms on the dark side of the moon.
Yeah.
Did you see this latest report? There's like real controversy about some finding that the James Webb Telescope has discovered. Some large object
asteroid
moving towards us that's course correcting. This is the weird part about it. And so all the kooky UAP people saying disclosure is imminent. There's a mothership headed towards us. I don't know what they mean by course correcting, and how do they know it wasn't impacted with something else that diverted it?
It could have been that. It could have just been the gravitational fields. It just could have been an orbital path.
But they're not telling anybody. There's something going on. Do you think they would tell people? Like, imagine if there was a giant chunk of iron headed towards us.
The question is, what would we do if we knew?
Do we have the capability of moving that thing?
It's all a physics problem at that point.
Right. If it breaks up, then you have smaller pieces that are hitting everywhere instead of
by
one
the way,
large chunk.
Isn't this like the perfect reason why being multiplanetary just makes a lot of sense?
Unquestionably. We also know that there's planets in our immediate vicinity that used to be able to harbor life, like Mars. What we're experiencing here on Earth is temporary.
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. Why don't you talk to the administrator at NASA? We're passengers. We're guys going on a flight.
This is when I had a sit-down interview with him, and I showed him the footage, which he helped photograph. The fake footage of being halfway to the moon. He says, how did you get this? I'm going to become a famous person for having discovered this. What an ego I must have. So how could I become famous if I'm wrong? And then he says that he was just a passenger, that him and Neil Armstrong were only passengers. I need to talk to the administrator of NASA. Well, I thought they were pilots piloting the vehicle. So all he did was orbit for 8 days. That's why he was a passenger. So he basically admitted twice that I was correct. And when he realized that, he threatened to sue me if I showed those remarks to anybody.
If you show this publicly, you're open for a lawsuit. Okay?
So you're saying you know for a fact there are aliens?
Yes, 100%.
There are alien craft?
100%.
Have you been involved in the recovery of those alien craft?
Well, Ross, yes, I have.
How does it feel to say that?
I'm kind of over it. Like, this has been a fact I had to get over. It wasn't easy when it first hit you, but that was years ago. And it's actually quite therapeutic to get to talk about it. And I'm encouraged that it's becoming commonplace, because that's where it needs to be for us to move forward and start gathering some evidence, which we intend to do.
Artificial moon? Yes, yes, absolutely. So is our moon. Our moon's artificial, completely artificial. It was brought here from Ursa Minor, apparently between 11 and 12,000 years ago. For the purpose of being a satellite in a base, which they evacuated some time ago, but it's now being operational again. And I covered this in the series of 8. It came from a star system called Chata. That's for a word, that's the word they used, Chata, and it was the 17th planet out of a solar system that had 21 planets, and it was one of 4 moons, and it was brought here. It is older than the Earth. There are ruins all over it. There are bases underneath it. It's everything that we're told it isn't. So that's a whole unique story unto itself. Is that an artificial moon?
And so all you need to do is focus on a person long enough, or an object long enough, anything that you want long enough, and you are now entangled with that thing. And information changes in that thing can be reflected in you.
The entanglement process is a pixel of energy that can expand and feed information back to us. This process can allow us to bring in stored subconscious information, knowledge, and open up a gateway to abundance through this process of entanglement. It becomes easy to read energies and people and places and things, and everybody has the ability to do it.